Are Democrats coming back next week in person?
Yes, and our view is that, we're ready, we're willing, we're able to sit down with anyone, anytime, any place, either on the Hill or back at the White House to reopen the government, to enact a bipartisan spending agreement. But that spending agreement, as we've repeatedly said, has to actually make life better for the American people, not worse. And of course, it has to decisively address the Republican health care crisis, crushing people all across the country. We expect that Mike Johnson and House Republicans will cancel votes for a 5th consecutive week, which is extraordinary. Be on vacation in the middle of a shutdown for 5 consecutive weeks. They shut the government down, and they don't want to reopen it because they are unwilling to address the healthcare crisis that they've created.
So you all had polling this week. We talked about some of the public polling from the AP and NRC, and there was Washington Post poll, but the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee also did some polling that they presented to the members. I saw the polling myself, sir. And I have to note that in that polling, it was battleground state polling, and Republicans were only blamed in a slight edge for the shutdown. So I have to wonder, how is that informing your strategy, especially with November 1st coming up? And that is the day where open enrollment starts for folks, and they will see the real numbers for their, what the healthcare premiums are going to be going into next year. So how is this affecting your strategy, given what you now know from the battlegrounds?
Well, it's important to remember in the context of the battleground states that these are districts that Donald Trump won on average by 3 to 4 points. These are 50-50 districts that leaned slightly in Donald Trump's favor in the last election, but now a majority of voters, and perhaps most importantly, a significant majority of independents are holding Republicans correctly responsible for shutting down the government because of their unwillingness to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Now, what we've seen from public polling all across the country, of course, is that when asked the question, who's more responsible for shutting down the government consistently, it's Trump and House Republicans. The reality is they control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They've taken this my way or the highway approach since the very beginning of Donald Trump coming back into office. And of course, it's understandable that they are bearing the brunt of responsibility, and they've been unwilling to negotiate. And we continue to say, let's sit down, let's find a bipartisan path forward. But we also have to address the health care crisis that's crushing people in rural America, urban America, small town America, the heartland of America, and of course, black and brown communities throughout America.
Yeah, because the chairman always talks about what he's hearing from Republicans. And
to that very point, you talk about they have the control and they have the House, the Senate, the White House, and all of that. But the countermeasure to what you're describing is what we saw play out today in the Senate, where you had 3 Senate Democrats vote in favor of the worker pay bill, Senator Ossoff of Georgia, Fetterman of Pennsylvania, and Warnock of Georgia. So how do you stay on message when the countermeasure to what you're doing now, which has been effective, the messaging around health care, sort of leveling up what the impact of all this is having on real people out there. But now Republicans say, okay, I see you. I got one more for you. Hard bill after hard bill after hard vote after hard vote. How do Democrats message that and strategically work with that at the same time holding their ground on the thing that's gotten them the numbers that they see, regardless, to Simone's point, may be slim, but you know what it's like to get a majority today, right?
That's right.
It's not easy.
This is a 50-50 country. Right. It's evenly divided. So the fact that all of the public polling continues to be clear where the responsibility falls correctly in terms of how the American people see this, and they also know that we're standing up for issues that matter to them. The high cost of living in this country is out of control. And Donald Trump promised to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. Trump tariffs making life more expensive. Grocery costs up, housing costs up, electricity bills through the roof. And now you're talking about tens of millions of people who are about to confront these dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles on November 1st, which is the start of open enrollment, because of Republicans' refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Now, the Republicans are going to try to advance gotcha vote after gotcha vote after gotcha vote. But I think it's been extraordinary to see not just House Democrats, but House and Senate Democrats together standing up, unified, strong on behalf of the American people, because we know we're on the right side of issues that matter. And I expect to see that continuously from Leader Schumer, who's done a great job and Senate Democrats who've done a great job.
Can we talk about redistricting with you? There is, I'm just going to read this most recent reporting from the Washington Post. To counter Trump, Virginia Democrats plan to redraw a congressional map. Lawmakers could take the first steps, calling the Virginia General Assembly into special session as soon as Thursday, less than 2 weeks before the state holds elections, which includes its gubernatorial race and races for all 100 seats of the state's House of Delegates. There was additional reporting noting that they are planning for a session this upcoming Monday, I do believe. It's our understanding you've been very engaged and involved, specifically, not necessarily with what Virginia is doing, but that you all are supportive of the effort. But Illinois, obviously California, potentially in Ohio. Are you going to be able to counter what Republicans are doing? They're going to get about 19 seats if their efforts are successful. Will you be able to net enough seats to be competitive?
21.
Yes, well, with respect to the Supreme Court, that's one aspect of it. And certainly, we believe that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act should remain in place and is constitutional. That's going to come down, to Chief Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh, who, by the way, just 2 years ago in the Alabama case, affirmed Section 2. And so, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I don't think there's any justification to eradicate the Voting Rights Act, and I don't believe it will be eradicated at the end of the day. Now, separate and apart from that, we've seen Republicans engage in this aggressive gerrymandering ordered by Donald Trump so they can rig the midterm elections. And we've been clear from the beginning, we will not allow Republicans to artificially maintain the majority and cheat their way back to holding the gavels. Texas acted. We've sued Texas. We expect a decision in the next few weeks. And there's a good chance that actually what Texas has done will be found to violate both the Voting Rights Act and the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, and then that will kick up to the Supreme Court. In California, I was just there this weekend, campaigned on Saturday and Sunday with respect to Prop 50 to stop Trump from stealing the election. Prop 50 is going to be successful, and that will wipe out whatever it is that Texas Republicans and Donald Trump thought they were doing in the Lone Star State. And then, of course, from there, we go state by state by state. In Ohio, where we have a chance to take any gerrymandered map that they enact to a referendum and have that invalidated. And just like we're going to be successful in California, we'll do that in Ohio. We can do the same thing in Missouri, and we're collecting signatures right now in Missouri to invalidate that gerrymandered map where they tried to wipe away the district in Kansas City, represented wonderfully by Reverend Congressman Emanuel Cleaver. We will be successful in Missouri, I believe, in invalidating what they've done in Missouri. Then, of course, they've got North Carolina, this, that, or the other state, a handful that they'll try to go in. And I think Democratic governors have also been clear in Illinois, in Maryland in particular, saying we will respond forcefully and appropriately. And that's a Democratic position all across the country.